and now we have a bathtub of blood.
Yeah?
Have you ever heard of Countess Bathory?
Joke?
No, it's
what's
not.
the punchline?
Didn't you hear the fucking piano trill?
Yeah, I did.
This shit's serious,
I heard
bro.
it. I know, but just bathtub, Bathory.
Oh, I see what you're saying, like Bathory and Beyond. Like blood, Bathory and Beyond. That'd be a
do
good
have
Sunday.
a lot of 20% off coupons.
Right.
Oh, God. They send it to me every week. But you know what they don't send me? Death. Let me tell you a little bit about Countess Bathory. Born August 7th in 1560, Countess Elizabeth Bathory is now known by many names, but the most popular is that of the Blood Countess.
Or Liz.
Or Lizzie, to her friends.
Yeah.
She's also
Liz
a
to her
Leo. I
friends.
don't know if that means.
Now, she was born into one of the most powerful families in Hungary. I'm Hungarian. Represent.
Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
And also was rumored to be the most inbred family in Hungary.
Like,
they're royals.
They can, quantify that?
She had,
by far.
The
go through the books.
Look how intensely inbred they are. They've got one eye in the middle of their forehead.
Oh, man. Okay. All right.
Now, it was said from an early age, she suffered seizures and often fits of rage.
Seizures aside, most kids enter fits of rage, right?
The seizures part, not funny. Fits of rage, hilarious.
You're also the most famous super inbred kid in town.
Who didn't see it coming?
Well, you're going to be pissed.
It's
She's got a lot of rage built up inside of her.
As a child, she witnessed many cruel acts by her parents' military officers. One story says she saw a man sewn into the belly of a dying horse.
Wait, what?
What the hell?
Sewn into the belly of a dying horse and then left to die himself.
Actually,
Wait, for what?
That's called the tauntaun punishment.
No, that actually is a
like a Roman
punishment.
It's like a Roman. It sounds Roman in origin, right? Like,
it was also said that her uncle taught her Satanism and her aunt taught her sadomasochism. So it's just a family affair. Everyone's chipping in, helping out for Elizabeth.
Teach her how to tauntaun a guy, teach her about devil, teach her all that stuff. Yeah.
It's called being at a charter school.
It's called being well-rounded.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
Finishing school.
At age 11 or 12, she was betrothed to Fernik Nadasane. Totally saying that wrong. I don't fucking care. And he was of another Hungarian aristocratic family. However, a few years later, before their actual marriage, she got pregnant from a lower-born boy.
At 12?
No, at about 13, 14.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that makes it better.
Huge difference.
Right, and then when you called the other one a boy, I was like, what the hell's going on?
That makes it okay for the MTV show. But it was reported that her soon-to-be husband was not so happy about that and had the boy castrated and then torn apart by dogs. Eventually, the Bathorys were married, officially, when Elizabeth was 15.
So the guy, rather than break off the engagement, just decides to completely tear apart her lover who impregnated her?
He was from an aristocratic family, but not as powerful as the Bathorys. The Bathorys were basically the Kennedys of Hungary at that time.
Like super inbred Kennedys. They're like, how do they get to be so powerful? They were just
because, man, no one leaves the circle, man, unless you stay in the circle.
Keep the bloodline pure.
Now, the two moved into the family castle, and rumors of their cruelty spread throughout the area, and it was said that the couple constantly beat and even tortured their servants. But the true horrors began after the Count passed away from a wound suffered on the battlefield. That's when things got cray-cray, if I may. Now, Countess Bathory moved into another family castle and began to surround herself with servants to help with her practices. She was always known as being a cruel mistress to her helpers. But one day, everything changed. It is said that a servant girl was brushing the Countess's hair when she accidentally pulled too hard enough in a tangle in her hair. Elizabeth swiftly backhanded the girl across the face, so hard that it drew blood, and some ended on the back of Elizabeth's hand. Later that night, she noticed that the area of her hand where the blood was now looked more youthful and beautiful. It's at that moment that the most horrible of all light bulbs appeared above her head. If a little blood provided this amount of beauty restoration, let's see where we can go with this. Shortly thereafter, young women from the local village were being lured to the castle with promises of high-paying work. But they were actually taken and locked away into the cellar for later use. They would be brought to her room, where sometimes she would beat them, torture them, occasionally bite their faces and shoulders, and much, much worse. It was said that her depravity knew no bounds. She would place needles under their fingernails. She would sew their mouths shut until they starved. Then she and her helpers really began to up their game. She would burn the girls with metal rods. And then the same burning metal rods were used to violate them. I'll let you work on that yourself. Made them sit on stinging nettles. Made them bathe in these stinging nettles and then forcing them into their skin. Had them stand in buckets of ice up to their necks until they died. She smeared a naked girl with honey and left her chained to the ground to be bitten by all manners of insects until she finally starved and died of horrible wounds. She would starve them until they were forced to drink their own urine. She would cut off hunks of their flesh, cook and serve it to them. Then there was the blood. She was said to drink it, and some say this is the beginning of the Dracula legend. But also, the number one myth about her was that she would bathe in the blood of virgins. But when you really think about that, because of coagulation and everything, it'd be
You can't just
more
walk
like,
around with the blood all over you all day. You're going to ruin your clothes and
Can't
all
you?
your nice stuff.
When you're
like-
that important, when you're that rich, can't you just
Yeah,
walk
but, like,
around
it
and
was
people are like,
all
oh, my
rumored,
lady, you're
like-
covered in blood. You say, you shut up and you can fill my bath with more blood.
Yeah, exactly. Get back in the blood
Get back
squeezer.
in the blood squirts.
Ugh.
Give me more blood for my blood.
All right.
So, the beginning of the end was when she murdered a noble girl that she tried to make look like a suicide. Even though her family was that powerful, that was the last straw. The authorities raided her castle one night and discovered what they said were, quote, bodies of dead girls everywhere. Now, of course, this went swiftly to trial. After hearing the testimonies from servants about the atrocities that took place, she was convicted of over 80 murders. Although it is said they found a journal listing over 650.
Whoa.
That's
you
a lot.
You would definitely keep a log at that point,
course.
right? Like if you're an insane.
You gotta
blood-
be proud of what you do.
For
You
sure.
know, if other people
That's-
don't get it, it doesn't matter. Just
Right.
as long as it means something to
Exactly.
you.
You got to look back on your life and realize you accomplished something.
Be who you want to be, kids.
It's like the before and after picture.
She was locked in a room of her own castle that was boarded up except small slits for food and air. She lived there for 3.5 years before finally being found face down dead on the floor.
Wait. What?
She
They put her
lived
in,
in
like,
a boarded up
isolation, yeah.
room in isolation because
For
she was
3.5 years?
3.5 years just eating food and pooping and who knows what, completely solitary in her own castle.
Because she was too pretty because of all the bloodbaths.
She was gorgeous. There is a lot of debate about how much of this is true. But if only a quarter of it is, then Countess Bathory truly earned the name of the Blood Countess.
Oh, shit.
All right. So
Well, that's a